Close your eyes for a moment and imagine walking down a bustling British high street in the 1970s, 80s or 90s. Bright shop fronts glowing with neon lights, kids tugging at their parents' arms to stop by toy shops, the smell of fish and chips mixing with the crisp air. It was an era when shopping wasn't just about buying things. It was about experiences, memories, and a shared way of life. But time moves on, and with it, countless shops that once defined the heart of Britain have faded into history. Some were lost to competition, some to technology, and others simply to changing times. Yet for those who lived through it, the memories remain as vivid as yesterday. Today, we're taking you on a journey back through those lost aisles and vanished storefronts. This is the countdown of 20 British shops you'll never walk into again. And trust me, by the time we reach number 1, the nostalgia will hit harder than you expect. So settle in and let's step back in time together. And don't forget, if any of these shops spark a memory, drop it in the comments below. Share your story because nostalgia is even sweeter when it's shared. Number 20. Our journey begins with Etam, the women's fashion chain that dressed a generation. During the 80s and 90s, Etam was the place where countless teenagers bought their first grown-up outfits. Known for affordable yet stylish clothes, Etam balanced between everyday wear and the occasional chic look. But with the rise of fast fashion giants like H&M and Zara, Etam couldn't keep pace. By the mid-2000s, the chain shut its doors for good. Number 19. We have Index, a name some might have forgotten, but one that carried an ambitious idea. Much like Argos, Index ran on the catalogue system. You browsed, filled out a slip, and waited at the counter for your order. The difference? Argos had the branding, the reputation, and the loyal customer base. Index couldn't quite compete and eventually vanished in 2005. For those who remember it, Index feels like the what could have been of British retail. Number 18 takes us to MFI, the affordable furniture retailer that tried to bring stylish kitchens and flat packs to every British home before IKEA became the giant it is today. MFI was where many families bought their first wardrobes, dining sets, and dream kitchens. But financial struggles and customer service issues plagued the brand. By 2008, the name disappeared from the high street, replaced by IKEA's dominance and online furniture retailers. Number 17. Fine Fare. Sliding in at 17 is Fine Fare, one of Britain's first major supermarket chains. Starting in the 1950s, Fine Fare built a reputation as a modern, affordable grocer. It became a household name with its yellow branding and friendly atmosphere. But like many early pioneers, Fine Fare couldn't survive the fierce competition from Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Asda. By the late 1980s, it was gone, absorbed into Summerfield, and eventually disappearing altogether. Number 16. Ravel Shoes. At number 16, we step into Ravel Shoes, the fashionable footwear brand that ruled the 70s and 80s. Known for bold designs, chunky heels, and statement looks, Ravel was the go-to shop for teenagers eager to stand out. But changing fashion trends and cheaper imports hit hard. Eventually, the stores closed, though the brand name has resurfaced online. Still, walking past a high street without a Ravel sign feels like a loss from another lifetime. Number 15 is another shoe legend, Freeman Hardy Willis. This was the shop where countless kids got their school shoes fitted, often with the clunky foot measurer device. For parents, it was practical. For kids, it was a rite of passage. But with Clarks dominating the market and cheaper shoes flooding in, Freeman Hardy Willis slowly faded, closing its last store in the 1990s. A true end of an era in British footwear. Number 14. We have Radio Rentals, the shop where you didn't buy your TV, you rented it. Back when televisions and appliances were expensive luxuries, renting was the norm. Families would proudly show off their new color TV, even though it had to be returned or swapped. But as technology became cheaper and more disposable, renting made no sense. By the early 2000s, radio rentals had all but vanished, taking a unique piece of British life with it. Number 13 is Zavvi, the music and entertainment retailer born from the ashes of Virgin Megastore. Zavvi tried to capture the energy, selling CDs, DVDs, and games at a time when digital downloads were already taking over. Despite a valiant effort, Zavvi couldn't survive the storm of online shopping and piracy. By 2009, it collapsed. For many, Zavvi was a blink and you miss it memory in the timeline of British retail. Number 12, Virgin Megastore. At 12, we rewind to the parent company itself, Virgin Megastore. For teens in the 80s and 90s, Virgin Megastore was more than a shop. It was a cultural hub. You could spend hours flicking through CDs, posters, and video games. Meeting friends there was almost a ritual. But when iTunes and online shopping arrived, Virgin Megastore's business model collapsed. By 2007, the stores were sold off and eventually rebranded, leaving only memories of its red and white neon glow. Number 11 brings us Safeway, once one of Britain's supermarket giants. Known for its wide range and convenience, Safeway thrived for decades. But as Tesco, Sainsbury's and Asda grew stronger, Safeway struggled. In 2004, Morrisons bought the brand, rebranding many of its stores under their own name. Though Morrisons lives on, the Safeway name itself is long gone. Yet, for many, the logo is still instantly recognizable. Number 10, Bejam. Cracking the top 10, we have Bejam, a frozen food chain that dominated Britain before Iceland took over. Families would stock up on frozen peas, chips, and desserts, all under Bejam's bright branding. But in 1989, Bejam was acquired by Iceland, and the name slowly disappeared. Still, for those who grew up in the 70s and 80s, the Bejam sign was a familiar sight on almost every high street. Number 9, it's Quick Save. The budget supermarket that defined no-frills shopping, Quick Save was the place for bargain hunters, where shelves were stacked high with cheap tins, cereals, and household goods. The minimalist approach worked for a while, but as Lidl and Aldi entered the UK with better efficiency, Quick Save lost its edge. By 2007, most stores had closed, leaving only memories of its iconic red and white branding. Number 8 is Comet, the electronics and home appliances retailer. From televisions to washing machines, Comet was a household name from the 80s to the 2000s. Families would head there for the latest gadgets, often on higher purchase plans. But with the rise of Currys, PC World, and online retailers like Amazon, Comet couldn't keep up. In 2012, it went into administration, marking the end of an electronics era. Number 7 is Our Price, a classic British music store. Before streaming, before downloads, this was where you discovered new vinyl, cassettes, and later CDs. For teens, it was more than shopping, it was identity. But with HMV holding stronger ground and digital music disrupting everything, Our Price faded away in the late 90s. Today, the idea of queuing outside a shop to buy a single feels almost surreal. Number 6, we have Mothercare, a trusted name for generations of parents. From baby clothes to toys and maternity essentials, Mothercare was the one-stop shop for all things family. For decades, it was a lifeline for new parents. But rising costs, online competition, and changing consumer habits led to its decline. In 2018, Mothercare announced the closure of its UK stores, though the brand still exists online, a heartbreaking loss for many families. Number 5 brings us to Alders, a department store that once rivaled Debenhams and House of Fraser. With its grand layouts and wide selection, Alders was the pride of Croydon and other towns where it operated. Shopping there felt like an event, but as department stores across Britain began to crumble under the weight of online retail and shrinking high streets, Alders too closed its doors in 2012. Number 4, it's John Menzies, the Scottish newsagent and bookshop chain. For decades, it was the go-to spot for newspapers, magazines, and stationery. In many towns, it was as familiar as W.H. Smith. But in the 1990s, most of its retail operations were sold off to W.H. Smith, leaving the Menzies name to live on only as a logistics company. For those north of the border, though, the memory of walking into John Menzies still lingers. At number 3, we have Blockbuster Video. Friday nights in the 90s weren't complete without a trip to Blockbuster. Rows upon rows of VHS tapes, later DVDs, and the thrill of picking the perfect film for the weekend. It was a cultural event. But as Netflix and streaming revolutionized entertainment, Blockbuster couldn't adapt. By 2013, the last UK stores closed, leaving behind a tidal wave of nostalgia for an experience that can never truly return. Number 2 is Maplin, the electronics and gadget chain beloved by hobbyists, tinkerers, and tech fans. From cables to circuit boards, Maplin was a paradise for those who love to build, fix, or explore technology. But as online retailers like Amazon made everything cheaper and more convenient, Maplin couldn't survive. In 2018, the stores closed, marking the end of an era for British DIY tech enthusiasts. Number 1. It could only be Woolworths. No other shop captured the spirit of the British high street quite like Woolies. From pick and mix sweets to school supplies, vinyl records, toys, and even home goods, Woolworths was truly the store for everything. For generations, it was a weekly ritual, parents stocking up on essentials while kids begged for a bag of jelly babies. When Woolworths collapsed in 2008, it wasn't just a store that vanished. It felt like a piece of Britain's soul had disappeared. Walking past the empty storefronts was like seeing a ghost where childhood once lived. To this day, the word Woolies sparks an instant smile and a pang of nostalgia. And there you have it, 20 British shops you'll never walk into again. Each one wasn't just a business, it was a backdrop to our lives. They were places where families bonded, where kids found their first treasures, and where communities gathered. While the high street today looks very different, these shops live on in memory. Maybe you remember queuing in our price for the latest single, or the excitement of renting a VHS from Blockbuster, or perhaps your mum dragging you through mothercare while you longed to sneak into Toys R Us next door. Which of these vanished shops do you remember most? Drop your memories in the comments. I'd love to read your stories, and I'm sure others would too. Nostalgia is best when it's shared. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Britain Rewind, and ring the bell icon so you never miss another journey into the past. Because while the shops may be gone, the memories will never fade.